Rain lashed against the tall, arched windows of the Grand Hotel like 1,000 frantic fingers. Mark stood in the center of the lobby, the heavy thud of his briefcase echoing against the marble floors. He was the last guest of the night, shivering in a suit soaked through to the skin. Behind the mahogany desk, the receptionist worked in silence, his eyes fixed firmly on an old, leather-bound ledger. Without looking up, he slid a heavy brass key across the polished wood. The metal scraped with a cold, sharp sound. The air in the lobby felt suddenly thin, as if the building itself were holding its breath while Mark reached for the key. The receptionist leaned forward, his face obscured by shadows. "Whatever happens," he whispered, his voice like dry parchment, "never open room 307. Mark paused, a skeptical laugh escaping his lips as he gripped the brass key. "Is it haunted? Some local legend?" he asked, looking for a glimmer of a joke. But the receptionist did not smile. He simply stared with hollow eyes, then repeated the chilling decree: "No guest who enters that room ever checks out." Mark shook his head, ignoring the cold shiver crawling up his spine. He turned toward the elevators, leaving the warning behind in the dim light of the lobby. At exactly 3 a.m., a rhythmic knocking jolted Mark from a restless sleep. 3 distinct, heavy thuds vibrated through the wood of his door. Boom, boom, boom. He sat upright, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. The room was freezing. He climbed out of bed, his bare feet hitting the cold floor as he crept toward the entrance. He pressed his eye to the tiny peephole, expecting to see a prankster or a late-night staff member. But the hallway was empty. Only the flickering yellow light of the corridor greeted him, casting long, dancing shadows against the patterned wallpaper. Mark gripped the handle, turned it, and stepped out into the silence. The corridor felt stretched, longer than it had been before. At the very end of the hall, where there should have been nothing but a blank, solid wall, a door now stood. It was frame-heavy with ancient iron hinges that looked centuries old. Above the wood, a number glowed in a sickly pale light: 307. Mark felt a strange, magnetic pull. His footsteps were muffled by the thick crimson carpet as he moved toward the impossible threshold. His fingers trembled as they reached out to touch the cold, damp wood. The door did not need to be forced. It creaked inward with an inviting groan. Mark stepped across the threshold into the darkness beyond. The moment his heel cleared the frame, the door swung shut with a final, echoing click that seemed to vibrate through the very foundations of the hotel. In an instant, the hallway returned to its deathly, flickering silence, as if the room had never appeared at all. The next morning, the manager watched the CCTV footage in horror. On the screen, Mark walked to a flat, solid wall. He stood there, staring at empty space, before reaching out to grip an invisible handle. He stepped into thin air and vanished. Blueprints confirmed it. Room 307 never existed. If you see a door that shouldn't be there, would you reach for the handle?